So let's talk about the handheld operating system. So like in the earlier versions in your father's age, or even I've used this, there were something called as Palm OS or Palm Pilots. There's something called as battery as well, which is also an OS, not like the natural battery. Uh, some kind of Bluetooth versions of it as also. Now Android, iOS, and Windows are essentially the latest versions of it. So these are the examples of the handheld operating system, which is basically a phone that you're using. Now, one trivia, Unix, and I've always told that trivia are the most important things in the whole course. The green ones are the second priority. First priority are the trivia. So make sure that you're doing trivia, please, please. I request you. I request you with folded hand. Trivia, you never forget trivia. So trivia, Unix is a general purpose, interactive, and time sharing operating system. So Unix is a time sharing operating system, which we learned earlier, and it's a general purpose. It can be used for, kind of almost all the things that we've talked about in handheld. But again, the most important feature of that is it's basically everything. It can be used for all the different kind of OSs that we've spoken about, but the most important part therein is time sharing. Right. So I don't need to explain you what is handheld operating system. You would know more about that. Right. Now, desktop system. Desktop system are basically operating system that we use on a daily basis. You can use Microsoft or Mac or Linux and others. The CPU utilization system is not the most important concern. The CPU may even sit idle for a lot of time. That's fine. Because the user may not perform a lot of actions in the computer. Right. So in the case of desktop system, CPU can sit idle, but in the case of, let's say, RTOS, it's not supposed to. In the case of, let's say, network model, it's not supposed. It can, but not supposed to. In that case, if you have that system, you need to remove some networks because additional hardware is there. In the case of distributed, it must not do so. The CPU utilization should be as much as it can. Rather than these, the operating system have the sole purpose of making the life of the user more easier by being more responsive, rendering. So UI is the most important part. When you move the mouse, you should not feel that okay, there's a glitch or there's a delay or the mouse is moving slowly or the UI of the mouse is like breaking. Right? You've seen when, let's say, when the system is not working, you move your mouse. So it's not like this. It's like it's breaking and slowly happening, right? Mostly the work of accessing different files and installing and providing interfaces for different software so that the user may be able to use different kind of open source tool. So RTOS system will not be like, okay, install a software inside me. It will not even give the interface. Network system will not give the interface. Like, okay, there's a code, you can edit that code, but you can't install anything. I'll not provide you and external software installation. There would not be a module for installation in the OS of it. But here there's a special module which handles the installation as well, right? So these operating systems in the last few years have been using a lot of artificial intelligence as well to protect actions that the user, to predict and protect actions that the user will perform so that they can gather information and resources in freehand, in pre-hand. Okay, so there are some errors. This is pre-hand and this is predict. I guess when I was typing it, some autocorrect happened. Not sure. In more efficient manner and in less responsive time. So let's say you use your phone in the morning 8 a.m. Let's say when you open up your menu in the suggested apps, it shows news because the system uses artificial intelligence and knows that you're going to open In Shorts or Times of India or Economic Times. At 7 p.m., it's like it shows you Google Map or it shows me Google Maps because I'm like 7 p.m. I'm moving to home. And then it's like, okay, you usually open it around this time or your location is office. Whenever you are at this location, you open this app, right? At 10 p.m., it will usually show me, let's say, clock because I need to set alarms at 10 p.m. So basically that, for example, first thing that you will be doing when you will booting the system would be to listen some music, automatically open operating system will open all the resources using the directory. So it's like in the case of these, even though you've not opened the music, but it knows that you are most likely to, it is anyway sitting idle. So to make sure that there's a lesser buffer time, is like already these files are closest to the memory. So as soon as you request it, I'm available, because basically it's sitting idle only 10%. Let's say my phone is sitting here, it's in 10% of the CPU utilization. Wouldn't it a little better that it's not doing anything, that it can predict whatever I'm going to do, and all the memory or the files that are needed for my most predictable predictable next move on the phone, it's like, okay, it's already there, it's in cache rather than being in the RAM. So those kind of things. So the desktop system work that way. So thank you so much. Next we'll be covering CPU scheduling. I'll see you up in the next video. So the most important part of this is the introduction. Sometimes, generally, it's not very difficult. There were some keywords that were important. I make sure that you always remember, like tightly coupled, loosely coupled, the Unix trivia that I told you. All of those things are important, and why. And sometimes they'll, in MCQs and placements, they'll ask you questions. They'll give you a paragraph, and then they'll say, this is the problem statement. Which of the OS will you suggest? So answer in the options, it may not be desktop or mobile. It'll be network, batch, this and this. So it'll get confusing that time, which is why you need to remember. Thank you. I'll see you in the next video.